All right, well, welcome back to another episode of the Buffalo Happy Hour. What's up, Mike?
Derek, we are with 3 Chord today.
Yes, absolutely. Tony from 3 Chord is our guest for today. Tony, you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you very much. I'm Tony with 3 Chord Bourbon. I handle the sales and marketing for 3 Chord. I've been in the business since 1996. Done everything from vodka and Jack Daniels and Maker's Mark to Deep Eddy Vodka, Pinnacle Vodka. Worked at the distributor level, was a retailer, restaurateur at one point in time. And also now with 3 Chord Bourbon and Neil Giraldo.
Awesome. Were you in Buffalo the whole time while you were doing that? Or were you all over?
Well, I lived in New York City for about 5 years.
Okay.
I started in Buffalo. New York City was obviously, one of the major spirits markets in the nation. And my background was kind of leaning towards the wine business, which is even bigger.
Sure.
As far as the segmentations of the adult beverage space. But I felt like New York City was the place to go. So I lived about 45 minutes north of Manhattan for about 5 years. And then I decided to take a distributor position back here in Buffalo, and they moved me back here. So I've been here ever since 2003.
Awesome.
Very nice.
Yep.
Cool.
The world is a small place now. You can do anything from anywhere.
Absolutely.
We're Skyping. We do training sessions over video, and all the modern forms of communication are hard at work in our company right now.
Sure.
Because we're small.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with the 3 Chord brand, is there a story behind why you're called 3 Chord? And if so, you want to tell it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is a great story. As a matter of fact, this is kind of, you get touched by this brand and it pulls you in.
Sure.
It's just magnetic. 3 Chord is the 3 chord of the blues, which is the foundation for most modern music in the United States. All country and rock and roll came from blues.
Sure.
And Neil Giraldo, 9-time Grammy nominated, 5-time Grammy winning songwriter and musician, he's always the guy behind the scenes that would write the music, write the lyrics, put the band together. This guy's skill set's good for this song, and so on and so forth. And to give you some examples, he's written for John Waite, he's written for Kenny Loggins, he's written for Rick Derringer.
Wow.
A lot of those 1980s. You get the Rick Springfield's Jesse's Girls, his song. Love is a Battlefield by Pat Benatar is his song. So those are a couple Grammy winners that he's done.
Sure.
But he's the guy that said, you can't do it by yourself. It's a team effort. You have to find, just like in bourbon, and Neil's been a bourbon drinker for a long time, and the creativity of his life from music. And kind of being that guy that, was kind of going against the world, come on, 70s and 80s being a musician in Cleveland.
Right.
It's, it's a tough crawl to the top,
For sure.
And, he did it. He made it. He made his dream come true. And I think, 40 years of success, and he's just wanted to, kind of go down a different path and take that creativity and turn it into, turn that energy into another product. And something that he loved was whiskey. The idea behind it was, how do we take that music concept of a great band? You need a vocalist, you need a drummer, you need a sax player, right?
Right.
And 3 Chord by definition is bringing those tunes into harmony. So a lot like single malt scotch versus a blended scotch, Johnny Walker versus a Lagavulin, a Dalwhinnie, or an Oban, those single malt scotches are part of Johnny Walker's makeup, part of their blend.
Oh, okay.
So what we said was, we don't want to be one bourbon from one place, because 3 Chord is about bringing those tones together in harmony. And, one of the big things with Neil from day one, and he asks every month, what did we give back to the community today? We're doing, if you look at our website, we've got about 15 charitable partners we work with that are, our pillars of giving are kind of around, giving, kids that need a little help getting them instruments. So we buy guitars in one instance. We support local blues society to expand we have to preserve our stage because it's an older style of music. How do we get younger people into the blues genre?
Very true.
We still support country or pop, and there's events that are appropriate for us, but those genres, or the older genres, kind of fading a little bit.
Yeah.
So we preserve our stage. So we support the Western New York Blues Society, Detroit
cool.
Blues Society. We have a band that we work with very closely, David Michael Miller's Miller and the Other Sinners, which is a great band here in Buffalo.
Sure.
And they're now touring for us. They're
cool.
part of the company. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So that's where 3 Chord came from. And, like I said, we're kind of like a blended scotch. We're a blended bourbon for the same principles.
Awesome. Cool.
Wow. That's a really good story.
Yeah, absolutely. We love those type of stories. It just brings more personality to the brand that
Yeah.
we're looking at, because the name tells a lot about the company.
Yeah.
And the logo tells a lot about a company. So that it's a really good story, and we really appreciate all the stories.
Yeah, Neil's was big on giving back. We're pretty fortunate people, so we give back a little bit. And that's where if you look at our website, and we live this every day, we're about, family, friends, and community. Your family's the closest, then your friends, but your community can need your help too,
Right.
which is where we just did a nice event out in Michigan with Chad Tuff, which helps children with brain cancer.
Sure.
And a lot of the Michigan Wolverines guys are involved in that, so we were out there in Michigan doing some promoting with them.
Which you're a big Michigan Wolverines fan.
Yeah, well, you saw
listening to the interview today, so that's cool. So with your process of blending these bourbons together, can you talk a little about the process and how you guys do it?
Yeah. The process starts with our distiller and slash blender, Ari Sussman. He's a young up and coming distiller. He's got a great resume already, and he's involved in the agricultural sciences at Michigan State University. He's one of the initial agricultural fermentation, which is is distilling. Michigan State University has a master's distilling program. It was actually the first in the nation back in, I think it was 2008 or something like that. And Ari, along with Dr. Berglund, were actually commissioned by MGP, who I'm sure you know who they are, to kind of reformulate their mash bills a little bit and, kind of move them up in quality and do some different things and experiment with them. And he was a big part of that move. He then spent 3 summers in France, in Bordeaux.
Wow.
And then consulting in Cognac. So there are some, they manipulate wood a little differently in Europe than we do here in the U.S. And the strains of the oak are a little different.
Sure.
And contain different compounds.
Different taste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've taken some of these élevage techniques that you use in France and manipulate the wood with them over here. So that's really where we become experts. And that's what you need in blending, is to be able to work that wood in your favor and be able to get, that lignin in the wood to produce the compounds that you're looking for, which comes out in various temperatures of the heat that you apply to the wood. So Ari's really the pinnacle of what we're doing here, and he's a young guy with a lot of energy. He lives this lifestyle. All the best people, you live what you do. It's
Absolutely.
not a job, and you're so passionate about it. And Ari's just another person in our great team that lives this lifestyle.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, but it really starts with him. If you don't have that guy, it's honestly, it's like 4 legs on the table. Each guy you need to keep balance, right? So you need the sales and marketing, the operations, and the distilling, and everybody's a leg, keeping the table steady.
Sure.
And that's what Neil wants. If you see any of Neil's interviews, it's all about teamwork and everything else, and it's just no one can do it by themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure. Cool.
So can you guys explain how you take a little here, a little there, and then come up with your own product? Because obviously he, like you said, lives a lifestyle, but what is his expertise in basically making the product from what you get?
Yeah. Well, it started with Neil. Neil and Ari were very fundamental. This is very simple, but, Neil had a vision on, being able to create products the consumer's really going to enjoy.
Sure.
And when you don't have the luxury of millions of barrels or thousands of barrels, to choose from, how do you get to an end game where the consumer is going to really, truly enjoy that product? And that's kind of how it started. Ari said to Neil, hey, we can't just have Kentucky or Tennessee or Indiana bourbon and get what you're looking for, this vanilla character that you love. Because Neil's very engaged in this company. There's not one of these products that went out the door without his final approval to taste it.
That's
absolutely.
Awesome. That's really
yeah.
cool.
Wow.
There's a lot of celebrity backers or celebrity participants in brands, or however, celebrity brands, however you want to couch it, that I don't have a clue what's going on.
Right,
Neil's involved in managers'
They're
calls.
just endorsing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's in tasting it. He's, I've literally flown to New York City with samples, gotten off an airplane and met him at a concert.
Oh, that's
to
sweet.
Taste. Yeah.
That's really cool.
It really was. But that's the kind of guy he is. That's his charisma. And, he's if he's going to put his name on something, he's going to try it. It's not going to be anything that, that he wouldn't like himself. And, that's what you get from Neil, is like, he's thinking about what the consumer's going to want.
Sure.
Can we be consistent? So, the different production practices in producing bourbon, the most basic one you hear about Tennessee versus Kentucky, right? So
Right.
Tennessee strips fuse oils out through that charcoal maple mellowing process or Lincoln County process you hear about. Well, the fuse oils get stripped out before the whiskey goes in the barrel to age. Kentucky leaves them in.
Okay.
Okay, that's going to produce different characteristics. And obviously there's different climates, there's different microclimates. Even in a rick house, the ninth floor is going to age differently than the first floor.
Right.
The middle of the warehouse is going to age differently, than the east side of the warehouse, which is going to age differently than the west side as the sun moves and the wind blows. So Ari's skill set, he really brings that to the table, and he gets, what we're trying to do. And we have good business partners too that are, very upfront with us, to say, hey, listen, you need samples of this before it goes? Yeah, absolutely, we do. We taste everything before we buy it, which is great.
Nice.
So I think that when you take a look at the blending process to create what we have, it's paying off. We're getting 90s and gold medals all over the place.
Right.
And, we just got a 93 on the rye from the Beverage Institute.
Oh, awesome.
Which is a great score. I love the rye. That's my favorite expression.
Okay.
But our blended got a 90 in the Wine Enthusiast and is going to
Okay.
be in the top 100 buying guide for Christmas season, which is coming out
That's
next
awesome.
month.
That's huge.
So, and then Mark Gillespie, who's a great reviewer, he gave our 12 bar 94.
Oh, okay.
Which he doesn't give out a lot of 90. Anything above 93, I think he's only given out 10 different ones.
Sure.
We've had I've been trying to find it online, but a bourbon reviewer blind tasted 3-quart blended bourbon, and it beat Weller 12-year-old.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That's
if
huge.
I can't find it, it's gone. But I was reading this, I'm like, did you guys see this? I don't know if they
awesome.
took it down or what on purpose, but I couldn't remember who it was. But, we're happy to blind taste with anybody. We try to keep our price points as reasonable as we can.
Sure.
We feel that we have a little something for everybody. That's what 3-quart's all about. We have an introductory expression with our 3-quart blended bourbon, which blends a little bit from Tennessee, Indiana, and Kentucky.
Okay.
The 12-bar reserve is 12-year-old Kentucky and Tennessee blended together. And then our rye is 3-year-old Kentucky and almost 2-year-old Indiana rye.
Oh, okay.
Which is great. And then we're doing a lot of barrel finishing with, we just bought some hybrid barrels from International Stave Company, which is one of the largest barrel producers in the country, based in the Ozarks down in Missouri. We were only the second company to buy this hybrid barrel, which is alternating American and French oak staves.
Oh, okay.
And French oak carries the 8 times the amount of vanillin in the staves, which is a compound we love in our products.
Sure.
And that's where that's where Ari comes in. His expertise is fantastic. He can tell you about whiskey lactone and all these ethyl glycol and furfural and what those compounds do to the overall finish of a product. And that's where the blending really comes into play, because, like I said, we don't have all these things that where they come from. And he'll say, you know what, Tony, we need a couple barrels of Kentucky 12. Okay, I'm on it.
Sure.
Because he knows what's going to contribute to the final product.
Right. Yeah, because it just has to be an oak, right? It doesn't matter if it's American or French, and
Correct.
the combination of them together will produce a completely different taste.
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. So you talked about the different types of bourbon that you have out right now. Well, what are the price points, and where can people find them for those?
So in Western New York, we're in most major retailers.
Okay.
We're proliferated here pretty well. We've got some people that are working here directly. My son Tyler's out in the trade every day. He's the biggest pain we have going. Michael, I was hoping was going to be here tonight. He's our marketing and sales development manager, and these guys are hustlers. So you can pick us up in the Premier stores, the Global Group stores, supermarket, wine and liquor outlet, and all the way from Niagara Falls, and Butler's Liquor and Caputi's and On the Rocks. The list goes on and on
Sure.
and on. And most of the retailers in Western New York are pretty accommodating. If you go into your retailer and they don't carry us and you ask for them, I'm sure they'll bring us in.
Right.
So, but we're the South Towns. We're in Cordially Yours.
Sure.
We're all over the place.
Are you across state lines at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So our first 3 states, which all started about we're in our 16th month, July of 2018.
Oh, okay.
So we're in Michigan. That's our home state. We're in New Jersey and New York.
Okay.
In August this past year, we did expand into Tennessee and New Mexico.
Wow.
And then in September, we actually broke into Kentucky.
Good for you guys.
Yeah, it's really...
That's big.
Yeah, we hired a couple people, one to work Memphis. This guy, Ryan, fantastic. His background is in retail. And then Laura, she's a hustler as well, out all the time. These people, it's the kind of people we want to attract, is people that are kind of go-getters and
Absolutely.
are going to be visible. We're not looking to manage from the White Tower, so to speak. We want people that are going to be out there engaging consumers, engaging bands. We a lot of our brand building activities around local original music, which is really nice. So the blended bourbon, we'll start there. Getting back to your where can we get it and how much is it? We try to retail for around $39.99.
Okay.
There's a
very
couple,
reasonable.
Yeah, there's some great. Georgetown over here in Williamsville had it on sale for $35.99. I think a couple weeks ago. So, there's a lot of support from Addie's puts us on sale. We do a lot of tastings in the premier stores, Addie's, McKinley. So we're out there. You can find our people all the time. If you follow any social media and look at Ignite Event Marketing, they're our local marketing arm here. It's a Buffalo company. Once again, trying to keep the business here in Buffalo.
Yeah.
They post, hey, we're going to be over here today. We're going to be over here. So if you friend Ignite Event Marketing on Facebook, follow them, and on Instagram. So our 3-Chord blended bourbon is designed for cocktail creation or an introductory consumer that's just kind of getting into bourbon a little bit. And it's a little milder. It's got a great flavor profile. There's no peaks or valleys in the flavor profile. The flavor phenols are very evenly across the spectrum, so it's something you can mix very easily.
Sure. 3
bourbon smashed with lemonade, a splash of club soda. A highball.
Nice.
If you want to drink it straight and neat, you can. Say it's kind of a warm day and you're not feeling the bloat of a something to cool you off like that lemonade. Just drop an ice cube in it. Just one.
Sure.
Cool down a little bit, but it's light enough to kind of quench your thirst, I guess, if you will. Yeah. So that's our blended bourbon. Then you have our 12-year-old bourbon, which is our right now it's our flagship, but at the end of the day today we'll tell you about a couple things coming down the road.
Absolutely.
But the 12-year is great. This is for our full-proof bourbon consumer. It's currently about 65% Tennessee 12 and 35% Kentucky 12.
Okay.
You're going to pick up a lot of charcoal from that Tennessee portion of the product. A lot of smokiness, if you will. It comes out at 107 proof. So Tennessee tends to be a little bit, as it ages, the evaporation, there's no fuse oils in that. So it evaporates a little quicker. So you might come out at like 98, 99, whereas a Kentucky is going to come out at 115, 120, 125, maybe even more. But when you blend them together, we're coming out at about 107 right now.
Okay,
so
cool.
That's got a great, it gives away to the nutty, oaky characters. And being 107 proof is going to kind of come back up through your sinuses. You get that little kickback, if you will. And it's just going to hug you to about here. And that's the nice part. All of our products, the hugs are very, here's where your blend will hug you. The rye is just a little lower. And right here's where the 12, and it's going to end. You get anything down here, you're misswallowing. You're not going to get a lot of that. Astringency is going to come back up on the 107, but it's going to end here. But it's supposed to. You want that nutty, peanut, pecan-y type character to come up back through your sinuses.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I don't think anyone's talked about that hugging and how it's going down.
Yeah, not yet.
What process really makes that unique to each brand where it's going to go down differently?
Filtration,
okay.
Yeah, so you can do, there's people that are chill filtering. There's people that don't filter.
Right.
Correct.
Right? There's people that are chill filtering. There's people that are just filtering. And then inside that process, you have guys that'll drop it to high 20s, low 30s. What's the temperature range and what you want to filter out of it. So our filtration process is proprietary. Sure. We keep that to ourselves at something because, it's part of our end game,
It's part of your Krusty Krab recipe.
Yeah, exactly. So who's that little guy that runs around trying to get the Krusty Krab recipe?
Plankton,
right. We love Plankton.
So you're saying the one in the middle is 107 proof, and then where are the other two proofs?
81 on our blended.
Okay.
And that's by design. Once again, we want to be at that introductory consumer.
Sure.
The products in the United States are at 80 proof for a reason.
Right.
Because they used to be 80 or 5 or 86 or 90, but the consumer in the United States, listen, we all talk that we're drink dry wine and we're Kool-Aid country. Make no mistake about it. We can all sit here and say what we want, but we like things at 80 proof. If I go over to Spain with the blended, they're going to give me the boot. They want something up here, at least single malts are young, which are more vibrant, and there's a lot of herbaceous type character and those things, as opposed to being aged or hitting esterification or hitting wood. They want that kick and that grainy, that young character. So they're going to look for something from us, 95 or 107 proof. They don't want the lower proof. So it all depends on who you're looking to get to drink the product. The rye's at 95.
Okay.
Rye by nature tends to be more spicy and a little hotter.
Sure.
It's about 10% of the nation's business. And, if your bourbon's doing 1 million cases, you'd get about 100,000 rye, right?
Okay.
So one of the things that we said, we want to be in the rye business because we like rye. But how do we make ourselves different? Because we knew the consumer, typically most consumers don't really like rye. They say they're too spicy.
Right.
When you have a rye, they're very tannic and dry.
Sure.
So you get that pucker feel in your mouth. We actually already developed a secondary finishing process. So our rye goes back into barrels after it's mixed and blended.
Oh, okay.
So it goes back into barrels for an extended period of time until it's ready to come out. And what that wood does is softens those tannins a little bit. And it mellows the spice. Tannins magnify spice because they're both that astringent feel in your mouth, and it's giving you that sensation. Well, if it's spicy, it's only magnifying. It's like throwing Tabasco in chili, right?
Right.
By themselves, you may say, hey, this temperature is great. Put them together, you're like, whoa, So by reducing those tannins in the bottle a little bit, we've allowed our fruit to come out a little bit more in our rye. It's got a great cherry character. It's got some citrus peel, maybe a little green apple, depending on your palate. And then you're going to get your spice. And then it's going to finish and give you that mild hug, like right in the middle. Not I'm going to say mild, probably more like a medium hug right in here. But there's a lot going on in here. And this is the rye is a type of product that evolves while it's in the glass.
Okay.
And we didn't talk about that too. The 12-year-old, you drop a drop of water on that 12-year-old. So we'll try it straight.
Yep.
And then try a little 12 with just a little drop of water. You're going to pick up a lot of pepper.
Okay.
The pepper's really going to show up in it. That's a complex product. That's what you want. You want it to evolve.
Absolutely.
You want it to bring you, when you're a kid, how did you eat your cheeseburger or your hamburger?
Pretty plain.
Yeah.
Ketchup on it maybe and, on a bun, right?
Right.
Yep.
How do you like your cheeseburger now?
Fully loaded.
Hey,
Stacked.
Fully loaded, like a Krabby Patty, right?
Yeah,
Bringing
exactly,
it back.
right? And I love eating at Route 78 Street Bar, and the chef out
so
there will
good.
come down. He's like, what do you want on that burger? Give me an egg and mushrooms falling off of it, My buddy Jimmy owns the joint, and he's always got, he's the worst. I hate him. He's like, hey, you got to try this. Here, let's bring this food over, I'm like, Jimmy, and this food is fabulous. So
Yeah. You're so close, too.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I
not
go to
good.
Route 78 all the time. But I got to eat my Brussels sprouts too. So I eat green vegetables. Eat those over at Neat,
Absolutely.
But there's a reason for that, and when you're a kid, your palate develops just like everything else in your body, and it's demand stimulation. So I always ask wine drinkers, what was the first wine you drank? White Zin. What do you drink now? Cabernet Sauvignon. Because your palate has demanded more stimulation over time, and that there's no difference in anything else that you're going to try. So you really want your palate to evolve. So that's why we have something for the introductory consumer, something a little more complex, and it's going to evolve, a real nice drink. This is going to evolve as well, but it's also going to hit you because it doesn't even taste like a 107.
Okay.
It's not. You're going to be like, wow, this is 107 proof.
Sure.
Really? Are you kidding me? So that's kind of what the range is developed for, is to hit those different consumers, to be able to have a little something for everybody. And we've even got some of our expressions that are coming next year are going to be really, really great as well. And another different consumer is going to be stimulated with those.
Right.
So
cool. You want to talk about those now?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that, of course. Love talking bourbon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Q1 in 2020, we're going to see an expression called Strange Collaboration,
Okay.
which is our 3-quart bourbon finished in Strange Family Vineyards Pinot Noir barrels.
Oh.
And it's just, guy's got a great name. His name's Brian Strange, and they have a little winery, so you can only buy online or at the winery. But Strange Family Vineyards, they produce Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and some bubbles. They'll do some California sparkling. But Brian and Neil are really good friends. And they have a bond that, part of the Strange Collaboration is going to go into our philanthropy and give back to some local crisis services groups.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So they had something happen in their life that's kind of brought them together. And Brian was nice enough to get us some Pinot Noir barrels they've been down since July. So we're about 6 months, early July. So yeah, we're almost coming up on 6 months.
Okay.
That the bourbon will be picking up those Pinot Noir characters in the Pinot
That's
Noir
fascinating.
barrels. we're coming out with that. And yeah, we just tasted last week, as a matter of fact. So we taste every month. You know, Ari and myself will get together and we go through every barrel. We taste it. You know, everything that comes in doesn't come in without being tasted at first. You know, and then we talk about it. You know, we bring in other opinions as well. We've got some nice friends in the business that have been around for a long time, and you know, we get advice from people that are really good to us. So, and that's the nice part about the bourbon world. You know, if I could call up, you know, friends of mine from Brindiamo, or call friends of mine, Jimmy Rutledge has been a great guy. You know, he just opened working on his new distillery down in Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
I got to give him a plug. The Cream of Kentucky. Let's go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Jim Rutledge. He's fantastic. He's an old Four Roses distiller.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's great. So we work with different people in the business, but we taste everything when it comes in. So I think Strange Collaboration is evolving, and you're going to see that in the next couple months, and that'll be hitting the shelves. And then the last thing you'll see, we're gonna do a bourbon cream around the holidays. We were trying to do it this year, but we got caught up a little bit. You'll see that next year.
Okay, cool.
Well, which is great. People love those bourbon creams during
Absolutely.
the holidays.
They're extremely addicting.
Yeah.
They just go down so smooth. They're dangerous.
Yeah, they are. But our Halo project is called Whiskey Drummer.
Okay.
And me and Neil and I and Brian Canning, Neil's partner and original founder, we were sitting in New York City last winter. We were having a drink, and I said, you know, the whiskey. Neil's like, what? What'd you just say? I said, the Whiskey Drummer. He goes, what are you talking about? And I said, well, after Prohibition, when Prohibition ended in Main Street in Louisville, the bourbon salesmen were coming out, and there's a guy with a drum banging on the drum. Come out and buy your bourbon. Prohibition's repealed. Come out, you know.
Oh, cool.
So for about 10 years after Prohibition, liquor salesmen were called Whiskey Drummers. And
Awesome.
No one owns the name. So we trademarked it. Neil on the spot sent his attorney an email, and we want it. And, you know, a couple months later, we had Whiskey Drummers.
Wow,
so,
that's really cool.
yeah, we think so. So we've been able to get our hands on some great Kentucky 15-year-old that's going to go into that project. Yeah, it's going to be fun. But those are the kind of things we're doing. We have a friend of ours that we love dearly, and another distiller in Michigan, Mammoth Distilling. Okay. And he's big over in Canada, and he buys old rack houses of rye, and he just lifted a 15 and a 17-year-old batch of rye.
Oh, wow.
And brought it over. Yeah. So we're excited. We're going to jump on board with that too. It's I'll tell you, I didn't want to leave because Ari and I were up there with him.
I don't blame you.
Paul Nanula too. He's our CEO here, and it was like his first real barrel tasting experience. He's like, "You guys are crazy," you know. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that's what's going to be coming next year. You know, so we've got a lot to talk about year in and year out, and you know, that's the nice thing about us is we want to be able to pivot to consumer demands. You know, and I think you're seeing these barrel finishing products come to fruition a little bit more and more and more. And, you know, we can't compete with traditional distillers because we don't have the cash or the supply. And that's what you find with craft distillers across the country.
Yeah.
It's just expensive, you know, and you can't waste, you know, when you're a little guy, you can't waste your product and, you know, go through all these experiments. So one of the things that we said is, you know, we want to kind of get into it this way.
Sure.
And then,
smart.
as we see consuming trends change and evolve, because we feel that the craft emergence of craft beer and then craft spirits has changed the consumer trends a little bit. So as we do these barrel finishing things, you're starting to see now big guys follow little guys. Yeah. Which is kind of neat, right? Right. Oh, these things are working, you know, and, you know, I've got people right now that, hey, Tony, can we get a couple of your bourbon barrels? We want to do a stout in them, or a stout, and and or a porter. I forget. I'm not a beer guy. I don't know, but those are really cool things to be working with other people and helping them out. And you know, you put my logo here, and I'll put your logo there. Yeah, done. You know, and that's kind of what this business is all about.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that's what's on the plate for next year.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
should we try them?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So the blended bourbon, I think you can put a little water in this if you want to. I just like it neat.
It's interesting. We've actually grown from cocktails to on the rocks, and then now we've pretty much grown to strictly just neat. Yeah. If we're just hanging out or what have you, it's always neat. Yeah. It's tough for me to kind of ruin it with a ton of ice.
Exactly.
You know.
There you go. Well, you know, that's a Kool-Aid generation we're talking about. you started mixing it, and then you kind of break away your palate evolves, and you're like, hey man, this is a really great product the way it is. So it's got great nose. You get a little vanilla. You get a little bit more of those early grain characteristics you get because it is a little younger.
This is like soft.
Yeah.
Very easy to
I noticed what you're teling about the hug position on this one. Yep, very high.
That's not deep at all.
So what is the mash bill on this? Like
So-
if you're looking at the nerdy stuff, as
Yeah,
we've been
yeah.
told.
So we're the 3-chord blended bourbon right now is 75% corn, 21% rye, 4% malted barley. It's a pretty standard mash bill right now, but that's also what we like. That's kind of falls into our wheelhouse. There's a lot of things. There's a level of sweetness in this that the consumer's looking for.
Absolutely.
And we have a proprietary secondary barrel stave finishing that is in here. So what happens is we take our blend, right, and then it gets put into a tank, and we take a charring process for secondary staves to go into that tank to extract that vanillin that we're looking for out of the staves. So if you have a young bourbon that's grassy and herbaceous and grainy, and an older bourbon which has a lot of oak or wood or really nutty characteristics, right? So we have those two. We want to fill in this triangular gap here, and that's done with the vanillin in that secondary wood toasting process.
Gotcha.
This is 100% bourbon, but under TTB regulations, we need to be called a blended because we're putting those staves into the tank. And Maker's Mark has started to do some things like that, and I think you're going to see more innovative things come from Sazerac and other companies. People that are intelligent about whiskey can see through things, and we want to be as transparent as possible.
Absolutely.
So we're putting wood in there, and that's what we're doing to it, and but that's part of our proprietary process. How do we extract vanillin out of that wood? There's not a lot of control. Everything we do is a number 4 char when it comes in, but then what we do is toast, which is completely the opposite.
Sure.
Right? You see those commercials where they throwing the barrels up over that giant flame, and the flames are all over the place. You're looking at 50 seconds at 1,200 degrees. And to get, and the char is filtering.
Of course it is.
Yeah. That char is filtering that bourbon as it expands, and the air pressure moves it in and out of the wood. What brings you the flavor is that red layer between the oak and the charcoal. You ever go campfire, you get the marshmallow going, you let one kind of get really black, and you pull it off, and you have the soft marshmallow on the inside, but there's that brown, sappy looking color around it. When you pull that black piece off of that's what happens in wood. So you want that bourbon to push out against the charcoal filter and then grab some of those sugars as it comes back into the wood.
Sure.
And that's where your flavors are really coming from. It's called a red layer. So as we add our secondary wood, we're looking to different characters. We don't take it to a char. It's done at a toast. So those certain saps and acids come to the surface.
Fascinating.
The more you drink this, the more vanilla you get.
Oh, yeah.
And it really, it's so smooth going down.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
So great. Like I said,
this is really good.
It appeals to everybody. Vanillas are people like vanilla.
Yeah.
And it's a popular characteristic.
It's universal. Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm getting like a caramelized note to it too.
Absolutely.
For some reason, I'm smelling, I don't know why, but I'm smelling kettled corn when I smell this.
Well,
So
don't
I'm
forget,
feeling
we're
like
a little
that
high.
caramelized,
And it's a little sweeter.
Yep.
Okay. You're going to get caramel. You're going to get butterscotch. You're going to get your vanillas because that's what we want to get in there. And then eventually it gives away and you pick up some of that. There is Kentucky 12 in there. So you'll pick up some of those oaky characteristics in that smoke from an more aged bourbon, which is kind of what we think people like because there's a lot happening. It's not just one dynamic,
Right.
So as a traditional distiller, we can take 4 or 5 of those traditional distillers and put them together in a bottle and come up with something pretty cool.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's kind of like, think about, you go to France and you're in Bordeaux. In a good Bordeaux is Cabernet Sauvignon, Cab Franc, Merlot. There's 5 different grapes in there, right?
Right.
In bourbon, so we go out to California and you look at some of these wineries, it's all Cabernet Sauvignon, maybe 5% Cab Franc or 5% Merlot. But you go to a true Bordeaux style, it's blended because it's taking advantage of different characteristics. Just like blended Scotch takes advantage of different characteristics. Lagavulin ages much differently than Dalwhinnie does because it's on the coast, and so I think of that wind and that salt air permeating those casks for extended periods of time. It's leaving that salt behind, and you can
and
pick
all
up
that
those.
peat. It's different from each one of them.
Yeah. So that's kind of why what we're doing is we think is really unique is that we're able to blend some things together and create some good ideas. So.
Absolutely. That's a very easy daily drinker.
Yeah.
It's too easy. That's what it is. It's too easy.
That's a good thing. I've heard that before.
Absolutely. Cool.
Yeah, let me give you guys the rye here. Got cords up here, down here.
Yeah, that's why I'm not getting them. I'm going to knock something over.
This is the rye.
Thank you.
This is great for our second expression.
You can smell the higher alcohol content
Yeah.
on this one.
Yep.
It's gonna be great. Hug you guys, gonna hug you a
Yep.
little more,
A little
deeper.
bit, yep.
Still at 95.
It's so interesting.
I
guess I never really thought about drinking whiskey in that sense, where it's gonna the different ways that or levels it's gonna hug me. That's a very interesting point. I really like that.
Yeah,
Cool. You just put a little water in there too for yours?
I did. Yeah, the rye it evolves. It's fantastic, and it evolves really without water as well. You can this is a great sipper that will taste one way for the first 5 minutes, a different way for the next 5 minutes, and a different way for the
That changed it a lot.
Yeah,
that water. We do that too. We went to Black Button for one of our episodes, and they gave us an eyedropper of the like reverse osmosis distilled water, and we put that in every one of our episodes just to see how the whiskey evolves. And some doesn't, obviously, with the oil content and everything, not necessarily separating it, but this definitely did evolve quite a bit.
Yeah, everybody's using reverse osmosis water now in whiskey production. I think I'm not totally sure, but I believe it's actually in a federal law that you have to go down to a 0.001 micron filter for consumable water. So a lot of your, does the water come from the river that flows behind the distillery? Yeah, but it needs to be stripped down so far. Sure. It's the same as everybody else's water. So if you want something that's a little sweeter, for instance, you'll add a little magnesium or calcium back into the water.
Oh, okay.
After it's stripped down. But everybody kind of starts with the same white canvas, if you will, when it comes to water. But I don't like it too cold. If I'm gonna add water, like we had this sitting out for an hour before we started, right? Room temperature is best.
Absolutely.
I just tell people, if you want it freezing cold, you don't like it because cold retards your taste buds.
It does, yeah.
So
so does extreme heat. Your tongue isn't programmed to taste all those different temperatures. So room temperature is definitely best.
Yeah.
The only whiskey that I have had out of the freezer is Crown Apple, but everything else is just on a shelf and it's not really, at room temperature.
That's not really whiskey though.
See, I mean, comparatively, it's not. Because it's. You're right.
Those products have their own place. There's a huge.
Absolutely.
We know. I mean, we've seen the
it's
shelves.
an insane market.
I've seen the shelves. I mean, I can remember when Absolute and Smirnoff were pretty much the only vodkas you saw. Maybe a little Stoli once in a while.
Right.
Show you how smart I am. When Grey Goose came out, I said, "This is never going to go anywhere. Who's going to pay $40 for a bottle of vodka?" How dumb am I? But it's been an interesting last 25 years in the spirits world. I remember Jack Daniel's. We will never ever come out with a flavored Jack Daniel's. You can take it and we're Jack Daniel's. Well, you start to see that your shelf space diminishes. Then you watch another product, a Fireball or something grow like this, and you're like, geez, we could do that. Yeah. We've got the shield to build it. I mean, Jack Daniel's is like a Nike swoosh. It's probably the most recognizable labels in the nation. Yeah. It might be the number one. And when you bring something out like that, their honey's fabulous. They're everything that Jack Daniel's is doing right now is top notch. I'm a huge Jack Daniel's fan. I think that the way they've positioned themselves in the marketplace is really. They've got everything from the Sinatra expressions to, for those halo type consumers and the traditionalists who want to drink a really good Tennessee whiskey, down to the consumer that wants to, do shots and throw a bottle of, the Jack Apple in their fridge or whatever, But, I think, there's room for everything in the alcohol space that's in the market right now. And obviously it is because it's selling. I mean, you look at the tabloids on an annual basis and those flavored whiskeys, whether it's Evan Williams to Jack Daniels to Jim Beam, they're all like this. Yeah. But it's not us. We're trying to be that person that is a band.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And we have our genre is the premium consumer that wants something fine to sip on or have a cocktail. Not to say we can't go out and turn it up a notch. But we're not going to be that flavored company and moving from one segment to the next and fireball to screwball to whatever that's just not us.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of local distilleries that are taking the same approach, and it really shows in their products too.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are just, I mean, everything that we've tried on this podcast has been local or has an insane amount of ties like your product to Buffalo, and all of them really blew away.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like when we go to the store, I don't even care to look. I only ask whoever's working behind the desk, like, where's the local section? And they're like, the Buffalo end cap is like here. I was like, sweet, that's all I need.
Yeah.
There's like 5 options, but to me, it tastes better anyways. And now that I'm drinking everything neat, I don't need Coke. I don't need Pepsi or ice. I want to enjoy the whiskey. And locals just destroying that market. They're so good.
Well, you got hands-on attention.
Yeah.
And because we are a community of people, that I love the guys at Tommy Rotter.
Yep.
The guys at Lockhouse, we talk all the time.
Talking with him on Thursday.
Yeah, I don't care if you're doing gin or vodka or whatever. Corey and I just had, probably a 2-hour conversation a couple weeks ago to, help each other out and say, hey, what are you doing? How are you doing this? Our programming system at the distillery came from Tommy Rotter.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Hey, Bobby, what do you like? This or this? He
Right.
goes, well, we use this. He goes, I think, didn't hang up on you. Didn't say, well, you're going to have to find out on your own. We're all helping each other. I get a phone call from one of these guys. I spent an hour with him on the phone,
Right.
And I've had that same help from other people, so it's a great community of people. Once again, your family, your friends, your community, and it's, it's a really fun way to go through life, and it's very rewarding. I mean, every one of these companies is giving back, supporting community, music events or, tasting festivals. Whiskey Riot here in Buffalo is probably one of the best whiskey festivals you can. I mean, it's slammed in there. I mean, there's a line. I've seen that line all the way down, wrapped through the hotel, out the door, and around the back. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And you guys are going to the December Spirits Fest too, right? Yeah. Well, we're going to be there doing a podcast there also.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, very excited about that.
Yeah.
So since you've been in the business for so long, can you talk about kind of the evolution of how spirits have grown within the past couple years? Because I might be biased about this, but I feel like the craft brewery industry has kind of plateaued a little bit, and now we're seeing more craft distilleries. Do you feel the same way, or is it?
Oh yeah. I think you see, the inception of the craft spirits product was really in the 80s.
Okay.
And when you look at like Maker's Mark, Bill Samuels, they got it right. They were, Maker's Mark. I remember when Allied Domecq, the company that owned Maker's Mark, I think it was 2001 maybe.
Oh, okay.
They sold. And I remember sitting there with a bunch of my peers, and I'm like, if I could take one brand from this portfolio, I'm taking Maker's Mark. And it was one of the smallest, products in their portfolio. Canadian Club and, CC and Beefeater or Black Velvet and Beefeater. They had all these million case brands, but, they were like, I hate to be cliche, but it's like your father's Oldsmobile, and Maker's Mark I saw as this brand. I was just going to kind of keep on going. And when they came out, Maker's Mark, they were available. They went after the airlines in the 80s.
Oh, smart.
So everybody that got off the airplane went to their local liquor store with a little 50 ml of Maker's Mark and said, hey, you have this,
Yeah.
And that's kind of, and I remember the very first spirits article in the New York Times was written by Paul Bacall. And I think it was Paul Bacall. It might have either been Gary Reasons or Paul Bacall, Gary Regan. He wrote his very first spirits article, and it was about Maker's Mark. So Maker's Mark had an ad right around that time too. It's like, it tastes expensive, and it is. You know what I mean? But when you take a look at the 90s and what was happening in the 90s, the economy was booming.
Right.
Stock market was way up. Everybody was making money. And you started to roll into the 90s, and Absolute came out in 1979 and was the highest priced vodka in the marketplace and had all those cool ads, and they were rolling, and vodka was growing. In 1970, vodka actually passed, I think, gin or rum. I forget exactly where it is, but when you think of the evolution of vodka, its ascension to number one, and then you come into those 90s and people had a lot of money. And they were like, I'll pay $40 for a bottle of Grey Goose. And Maker's Mark, $30. Yeah, I'll do that all day long, because they had it.
Right.
And then, when you think about the food scene in Buffalo has become so dynamic, and there's so many great restaurants here, and there's chefs that have been trained all over the world and a lot of self-taught chefs. And, you know, when you take a look at Tempo or Hutchins and Mark Hutchinson and, you know, Paul Jenkins and all those guys are great. They're brilliant. You know, they're so creative. And that scene has really grown here in Western New York. And, you know, I've seen Buffalo ranked very high in up-and-coming food cities or wine and spirits, you know, surveys about up-and-coming cities in the spirits, in the food industry. And, you know, when I was a kid, or even, you know, in college or post-college, you know, we went for a burger and roast beef.
Right.
You know, there wasn't really a lot of fine dining restaurants or any eccentric type food types in Buffalo. And that's grown so much. And it's done the same thing around the country. And so as our palates demanded more from food, the spirits and the wine went along with it, you know. And the craft beer ascension, in my opinion, was kind of left behind a little bit. And then that exploded and went past everybody.
Right.
And it's a little easier to bring a craft beer to market than it is a spirit to market.
Sure.
It's a little less expensive. The raw materials are less. The equipment to create a beer is less expensive than, you know, than the spirits. So I think that, you know, it's just a fun market to be in right now.
Absolutely.
You know, and, you know, beers kind of stabled off a little bit or even dropped a little. The spirits industry continues to grow at 3 or 4%. You know, the vodka industry's kind of declined a little bit.
Sure.
But I think you're seeing a nice trade up. You know, premium gins are going through the roof.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah.
Your mainstays or your lower end ones are kind of they're falling off a little bit. But, you know, I think the perception of quality in the United States, I always go back to Starbucks. You know, Starbucks really helped the United States in the 90s. It's the same time, right? They were out in the late 80s, early 90s, and everybody paid 50 cents for a cup of coffee. Well, now here comes Starbucks and all these other you know, whether it's Tim Hortons or, you know, Spot Coffee. What they did is the American consumer started to get educated and said, okay, I'm not going to pay $4 for a cup of coffee. Are you crazy? Guess what? They're all paying $4 for a cup of coffee now, or $5, right? So, but all these things happen at the same time in the United States. So the food and the coffee, they may not drink as much, you know, but they're drinking better. They're drinking, you know, the units. I keep telling people, oh, the economy crashes. Where are you guys going to be? I said, the units will stay the same. You know, it just depends where people buy.
Right.
You know,
think about the 20s and the 30s. Yeah, whiskey was booming.
Yeah, right.
Nothing else was, but whiskey was. It's never going to go away. It is a really sustainable market, and it's a great story because there's so many different things that you can do with whiskey, and then when you are into blends or when you take from here and take from there and then create your own, people are into that. Yeah. And then especially, it's interesting. Like guys our age, really make a point to know where their money goes, and your generation and older they'll just do that without thinking about it. Like they'll subconsciously know, like, I'm giving my money to these people because I want to, but I'm not going to voice why. My dad did that for years. It's like, I'm not giving my money to them. I'm going to give it to them. But he never gave us like the why. Yeah. And then now, I'm not going to say the M word and group us with them, but the millennials, they do really make a point to say, like, I want to give my money to a company that actually does something with it. They have a purpose. They have a really good sound sense of direction. And then with you guys for non-for-profit and then doing different things for charities, and then your message is consistent, even from somebody who you'd think, like you said, wouldn't be involved in the process, is super involved in the process. More people are going to steer away from the bigger names and then switch and then try these, because that's what it's all about. When especially because it's a tie to Buffalo, everyone's going to jump on that. Yeah. So I'm glad that was discussed because it's huge. Yeah. Well, you know, we have a ton of our investors live here. We've got some major companies that you see on TV every day that are investors in the brand. Okay. We have, you know, great people that we do business with, like I said, at InView Digital. Their team is fantastic. They handle all our websites. We use creative from Dan Dellavella. We use creative at 24/7 Advantage. Nice. You know, like I said, we tried to get our boxes from here, but they subletted us to another facility outside of Buffalo. But we gave them the chance here in Buffalo to get it, you know. But so, in my opinion, they did. So where we can do business in Western New York, we do. All our printing, our shelf talkers, and everything are done by local printers here. You know, and it's important too to Neil. Neil always says, you know,
our co-packer in Michigan, where our distillery is, we're very environmentally, he's Energy Star rated. He throws a lot of money into older buildings to bring them up. We're reusing buildings. We're not building new buildings.
Right, sure.
We're trying to create, opportunity where there's an older building.
Nice.
Niagara Label uses all biodegradable ink. You could drink it right out of the jug. We're at our glasses at 30% cullet, which is recycled. We would like that to be a little bit higher, but unfortunately that's where we are right now. So we're doing a lot of things like that. We're very conscious of the environment, and we're conscious of philanthropy. We're very tied to Western New York. One of our owners, our CEO, Paul Nanula, his family owned Tops back in the 90s, and they used to own Wilson Farms. Sold Wilson Farms in 2006.
I couldn't give you a dollar amount that I put into those stores. Goodness.
Paul, appreciate that.
Wilson Farms was the spot growing up. Your buddies would go there and everyone got their candy bar. I mean, Wilson Farms was it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So there's a lot of ties to Western New York here for what we're trying to do. So how about some 12-year-old boys?
Sounds good.
All right.
Do we get to talk about those two in the back, too?
Oh, yeah. These are barrel samples. We're going to try some barrel samples. And the cool thing about these are going to be you can see different ages and what the color of the spirit is and what they're going to taste like.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Those are great.
Thank you.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we do have a barrel program we're working right now. We had Liquor City in Syracuse just bought a barrel, and we're going to have a barrel at we got some great barrel. We got actually a barrel out at Addie's.
Oh, okay.
Barrel out at Georgetown.
Okay.
So if you want to stop out there and try some 3-chord, and we just, we're just starting to get into it because we had to let this stuff age for a little bit because we do buy barreled bourbon, to be able to get something that will evolve a little bit. We don't have the luxury of 9 floors.
Right.
So we're spread out a little bit, but we are 4 rows high in our warehouse. So
I know that you said your product coming out is going to be aging in the barrels for about 6 months when it comes out. Mm-hmm. Well, what normally do you keep the bourbon after it's blended into a barrel?
Well, only the rye goes back into barrel.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Sure.
the rye goes back into barrel for it's not a very long period of time. It's till it's ready. So it could be 6 weeks. It could be 3 months.
Oh, okay.
So we have to, depending on the environment and the climate, what's happening outside, what the whiskey's doing inside the wood. We taste it on a regular basis and say, okay, it's time to go in bottle. Kind of like a wine.
Sure.
We don't want too much of that wood character in here because don't forget, we want that fruit to come out.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys were able to pick up on that cherry and the rye, but it was,
Absolutely.
in the, you can get a little green apple in there. You can get some citrus fruit, which is pretty cool. So this is the 12-year-old. This is our flagship right here. 12 Bar Reserve is actually the 3-chord played 4 times, which is a popular.
Oh, okay.
It's a progression of the blues,
Nice.
so that's why we call it 12 bar.
Nice.
And this is Neil's baby. This is his favorite expression, and he just drinks it just like this.
If I was super famous, I would want this.
Yeah. Yep. And you're gonna get all kinds of woods and nutty characters in here, and
Pepper, too,
add that drop of water. That pepper really comes out at you.
Yeah, I'm picking up the pepper.
This is so good. Really, with the 3 of these, well done. These are fantastic.
We'll let Ari know. He's the guy that cooks it.
There's definitely the progression. So it was smart to go in that order. Obviously, you know what you're doing, but it was smart to go in that order because you started with the one that goes down a little bit more smooth, the more daily drinker. Then you go to the rye and then finish with the amazing 12 years. So very good, very good.
You have, we were talking about the pillars of the table earlier.
Yeah.
And Ari and I bring the experience to the table for the bourbon business. Brian Canning, one of our founding partners, he's been in marketing and product development for years in the music space. He actually produced the last Jackson 5 concert at Santa Monica Pier.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he's produced videos for Pat Benatar and all kinds of stuff. And he's got Telly Awards so he's really in that creative space. Then we have the Nanula family, who is obviously in operations and retail. We've seen them with 2 successful businesses right here in Western New York with Tops and Wilson Farms. They bring that retail experience to the table and how to get product to the consumer and keep the consumer happy.
Right. That's huge.
I always tell people, and this is shame on me, but I always tell restaurants this. I'll do trainings in restaurants, and I say, the customer comes in and expects to spend $50. But they come in that night and they spend $60. But they had a really good time.
Sure.
They go back and they say, Derek, our server tonight, did a really great job. I spent a little bit more money than I wanted to, but boy, was our meal fantastic. guess what? They're coming back.
Absolutely.
Now they expect to spend $60 the next time.
Right. Becomes normal.
Because you're giving them an experience. And to your point, we were talking about millennials before. Millennials want local and traditional.
Yeah,
you know, they want to be able to touch that authentic person. And from our company, from the top to the bottom, Neil's authentic. We were talking about some of the people we have working for us that are hustlers. They're authentic. Sure. And so we're trying to give our consumer an experience. You know, we're doing tastings, and Ignite Event Marketing is doing cocktails at the tables.
Right.
A lot of people just sample you on their product.
Right.
Well, they're making you little mixed drinks, and you're going over there. The girls were all dressed up as witches for Halloween, and they had bales of hay at different events, and they give away little trinkets, pop sockets, or hats, or T-shirts. You know, we do shows, and we, you know, local original music is our big thing. You know, so
that's awesome.
We're doing the polka and versus country event at the Cove.
Oh, nice.
On November 30th, Friday night. So if you guys want tickets, I got them for you.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. I've never seen anything like that, but boy, that's an experience, right?
Absolutely.
You know, so we have a local product that's giving you an experience, and we're going to give back to, you know, this piece of charity or that, whatever, you know, we see fit. So we're filling those pillars of the millennial consumer, and it's just cool to be nice.
Sure.
You know,
absolutely.
I mean, that's really what we are. You know, we're just trying to give the people a product, you know, and local. It's very important for us. Paul wanted our corporate office to be here, you know, because we had so many of the early investors were from Western New York. He's like, we really need to be here. I feel like we really got to give back to the community. So we did, you know.
That's great.
Very cool.
It's a good point. Down to earth goes way further than almost anything else.
So clear a couple of your glasses. If you want to rinse or...
Oh, I didn't even need to clear my drink. Oh, that was very good. Very good.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Glad you guys like them. So these are a couple different barrel samples that we have here. Always barrel samples in this office. But one of the neat things about these is you're going to be able to see the color differences for the difference of ages.
Oh, okay.
You know, so if you want to, even if you looked over here, you probably see it, but this is an Indiana 3-year-old bourbon in here. And this is a Tennessee 12-year-old here. You can see the difference in the color.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
As it's picking up, and that's the wood. It's contact with the wood. It's picking up that color. This Indiana 3 is going to have a little bit more grainy type character to it.
Sure.
Think of the Cheerios. Everybody that drives on the 190 goes through Buffalo, right? You're going to pick up
100%.
The best drive right there. Thank you.
You got it.
This is awesome.
And this is a Tennessee 12. This is going to be a lot more like this.
That one's very sweet.
Yeah.
Very sweet
maybe real
smelling.
sweet. Those are your grains, right? It hasn't any time to pick
No
up
kidding.
the wood.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Again, these can be so dangerous.
Thank you for all this.
Yes, thank
you're
you.
welcome.
All right, so starting with that Tennessee one.
Oh, let's see that. You got it's
That is-
so.
oh my gosh.
Doesn't it smell like a Cheerios box?
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
That's incredible.
Again, can't even taste this one, like the alcohol in this one. This is so good.
Did you try? What's the proof on the Indiana? Did you pick that up?
59 is it?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, it's 120 proof.
Yep. Oh my gosh.
You know, put that in your bottle and drink it, right?
Yeah,
you know,
really.
Seriously.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You want to feel like a man?
You know, we've got a lot of stuff right now between 3 and 5 years old. We got some great Kentucky 5-year-old. We got some Indiana 2, 3. We have a library of Kentucky actually. We've got Tennessee is mostly 12 or 2-year-old right now. So, but all those work into the formula of what we're doing, and our formula is going to change, you know, depending on how things go and how the whiskey matures. We may want to select something that, hey, this tastes really good here, you know, and you know, we think we could do something with this product. So you might see, you know, this was a Kentucky 3 and a Kentucky 1, but now this is going to be a Kentucky 3 and a Indiana 2. So it could be a blend of straight rye whiskeys as opposed to just a blend of rye whiskeys.
Wow.
So
We have a section in our show where we like to highlight cocktails. And I know that you said initially that the first whiskey that we tried, the first bourbon, was more of a mixed drink. You can mix it with something. So, what would be your go-to cocktail if you had to drink one?
Oh, on the for 3-quart blended?
Yeah.
Well, you know, one of the things we're trying to teach people is bourbon's okay in the summertime.
It's okay every day of the week.
Yeah, but
Doesn't matter the season.
Everybody says, this summer's here. I'm going to drink vodka or drink a
It's
beer.
associated with a winter drink,
Yeah,
though, absolutely.
yeah. Here comes the winter. I can drink Scotch or bourbon. So we really promoted the bourbon smash this summer, which is bourbon, lemonade, splash of soda. Very simple. My son Tyler came up with a 3-chord Palmer, which is 3-chord blended bourbon.
Good for him.
Half ounce of peach schnapps, and then split tea and iced tea and iced tea and lemonade.
Yeah,
it's
that's
fantastic, man. We made them all summer long. Everybody was loving them, So,
awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty. Pretty interesting summer.
Yeah, some people don't like to just go out and buy a 12-year-old bourbon and drink it. So some people like to mix it. So that's why we include that in our show to make sure that we can get people into bourbon. And then after a while, like Mike and I did, you start with a cocktail and then eventually you'll go to neat and really taste the essence of the bourbon eventually.
Yeah. If you go out to our website, we've got some great drink recipes out there. The cool part about it is that we need to update it. It's just something else we need to do here. But we go to bars and bartenders will discover these unique drinks. So we give them credit. Like you'll see the Morgan 42 out on our website was concocted right over here at Local Grill on the Whirly in the Gulf Dome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the bartender over there, her name's Morgan, so we named it after her, the Morgan 42.
Nice.
It's an ounce of 3-chord bourbon, a couple dashes of bitters, topped off, half ounce of lemon juice, topped off with Prosecco.
Oh, okay.
It's fantastic.
Nice.
You want to have a jacked up mimosa on a Sunday morning.
While golfing, too.
Yeah,
There you
right?
go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good.
This 12 year is fantastic, too.
Yeah, that's a 96. So like I said, remember I said Tennessee comes out a little less.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's at 96 and call it 97 once we get to our points. But that's a 12-year-old Tennessee that's got, you can pick up a lot of the characteristics. You get that charcoal character.
Sure.
You get that oak character, almost like a campfire, if you will.
Absolutely.
That comes out in there is also going to be in there.
Very.
So, yeah. Yeah, when we got a bourbon club, we're doing.
So good.
Yeah, we're doing a bourbon club in Memphis. I'm going to be there.
Cool.
Yeah, and we met up with a bourbon club there, and they want to make their own blend.
Oh, nice.
So we're taking a bunch of bourbon samples to them. They can make their own blend. And we're going to put a nice little piece to the label on there for them, so that they can. Yeah,
Really
so
cool.
it's the nice part about the way we do things. So we can. You want to make something with us? Yeah, we can make that.
Yeah.
We'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, you come up. Hey, as you grow, and
Yeah,
you
for
say,
sure.
hey, you get all your buddies together. All of a sudden, you got 50 followers. Hey, everybody want to come to go to pick a restaurant and sit down, and everybody, hey, we want some of this with some of that, and we sit right up with Liquor City in Syracuse did that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, they blended their own product. It was an 80-20
Okay.
that they put together. It was a blended bourbon. They took 80% of one cask and 20% of another
Oh, cool.
that they made. Yeah.
Awesome.
So.
There's so many ideas now.
I know, really. Just running through our head.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Well, really, thank you so much for your time, man.
you're
I mean,
welcome.
we're at an hour. I don't know how long you wanted to go.
Oh,
but-
I'm on you guys' time,
Yeah,
man. Like I
really.
said, I wasn't really sure. I thought we
Yeah.
were setting this up. I didn't realize we were doing
No, we're
it.
going all in.
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
all right. That's what
But
good.
thank
good
you so
things
much
are.
for all your time. We really
You're-
appreciate it.
you're welcome.
We'll have to set something up once the other 2 bottles release too, so we can talk more in details on those.
Yeah,
so.
I'll tell you what. We can release Strange Collaboration right here on the podcast.
Oh, awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
We'll release it with you guys, and
That'll be huge.
We'll get rocking and rolling.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Yep.
it.
Thank you so much.
You got
we
it,
really
guys.
appreciate it.
All right, thanks,
Take care.
Derek. Thanks, Mike.
Of course.